1, 2, 3, up!
Lucy Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. You are officially tuned into WWJD. I am your star host, Joshua Shockley. And as promised, I have the semi-handsome, not quite as handsome as me, but almost there, founder and choir director John Alston of the Chester Children's Chorus.
It's good to be here, Josh.
Thanks, John.
Dream on, baby. dream on.
So as you know, WWJD has a word of the week every week, and this week will be no different. This week's word is relentless, oppressively constant, incessant. John, jumping right into it, what does that word mean to you?
Relentless?
Yes.
We know what it means. Where can I start? I've been doing this since 1994, so that's my version of relentless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, John, just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, how did you end up here on a star panel as such?
I'm just graced to be here. Josh, do people really need it? Do they want to know that about me?
Yes.
For real?
Yes, we want to know who is John Alston.
Okay, all right. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, one syllable, 1961. Single parent household. My mom is from the Philippines. My dad is Black American. He was out of the house. He was an alcoholic, so he was never around. And when he was drunk. So my mom was doing her best to raise me and my brother Warren. We got into music early. I joined the Newark Boys Chorus and changed my life.
What type of kid were you?
Oh, shy. I never really felt comfortable.
I don't know that side of you.
No, because that comes later that's much later in this story, but Chester is when I felt comfortable, when it felt right.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have to I'll tell this story of the first time you called me up when you were in this second grade. But we're skipping ahead. So, I sang a lot when I was little, and by the time I was 12 or 13 years old, I was absolutely sure that I wanted to be a musician. Awesome. So I just never quit.
Was you at 12 years old, was that a turning point for you? Was making that decision that this is something that you definitely wanted to do?
It's hard to know because music was the only thing that felt right. I was not right at home. Filipino mom, growing up in a black neighborhood. Dad wasn't around, but music made sense right away. Classical music made sense right away. And then at 14 and 15, when I discovered jazz, that made sense.
Yeah.
It just felt good immediately. I've just always hung on.
Favorite jazz player?
Hard to say. Right now, I'm listening to Woody Shaw, a great trumpeter, Freddie Hubbard, another great trumpet player, Chick Corea, great pianist, McCoy Tyner, Coltrane. I saw Coltrane's on a wall around here somewhere.
Yeah. I have Coltrane on vinyl.
Yeah, and today Kenny Garrett is the great jazz musician, the great alto saxophonist.
What is one of your favorite childhood memories?
Well, the best one is hitting a home run in this boy, we thought this was the biggest park in the world, but when you're 11 years old, this was Branchbrook Park in Newark, New Jersey, and I just remember smacking one into the trees and thinking I was going to be a pro ball player.
Yeah.
But more seriously, I was 11, and the Newark Boys Chorus went to Rome, Italy, to sing for Pope John Paul's 10th anniversary, and Leonard Bernstein was conducting.
And you were a part of that?
Oh, yeah. I sang first alto in the Bach Magnificat, and then I sang alto in Bernstein's Chichester Psalms with Bernstein conducting. And so here we are in Rome, you know, mostly black choir from urban Newark.
Yeah.
We didn't really know what we were getting into, but we knew Bernstein was great, and we knew we sounded pretty good.
Yeah. So I know I'm fast forwarding now, but I was a part of the original choir, and I remember during summer camp, baseball was like one of the highlights of our summer program. And when we had a break, we would go outside and we would play baseball.
We would.
Is that a part of that reason? Is it because you thought you hit that home run?
I don't think it's any deeper than I couldn't play basketball, and football just had too much contact in it. When we used to play football, you and Pep, you know, we were pushing on each other after 10 minutes into the game. But baseball and softball, we could keep our distance. But it was, weren't those just silly, beautiful times? And there were only 7 of us, and we're trying to play baseball.
I still remember the first time I caught a ball with my gloves. My eyes was closed. I couldn't believe that even made it in there.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like an all-star or something.
Oh, you were never an all-star, Josh. He was never an all-star. But what it was, more seriously, is you and I and your brother and Nate and Pep, we recognized each other immediately. It's like, I mean, we were family after what? A couple days, man? Yeah. So I have to tell this story for your audience. This must have been, so I would have only known Josh for 2 weeks. And one evening I get a phone call. And so Josh is a big, handsome, tall guy who could probably still bench 4 plates. But back in the day, you were tiny. And I remember you calling me up. I don't remember the day, but I remember it sounded something like this. Mr. Alston, it's Josh. And I got nervous. I thought there was something wrong. I said, Josh, what's wrong? Why are you calling me? Oh, no, nothing. I was just calling to say hi. And then your brother took the phone from you. And his voice had already changed, and he sounded something like this. He said, Mr. Alston, I'm so sorry. I told Josh not to call you, but he just insisted on calling you, so I'm really sorry. So I told JR it was cool, and so you and I have been friends ever since, and that is a true story.
Yes, it is.
You know?
Get into some of the real stuff. Because let's go back to where you started. Your first school that you walked into was Columbus Elementary.
Yep.
How was that?
Oh, I was cocky and terrified. I remember talking to the then assistant principal, Joyce Wells.
Yes.
And I explained to her that I would love an opportunity to start a boys' choir, but I don't know anything about teaching children, so maybe we should start small. And it was just crazy, right? I mean, all of this was crazy. There was just no reason that any of this should have ever
I remember
happened.
They tried to tell me I didn't make it.
Oh,
I had to fight my way into the choir.
Well, he actually didn't make it because his older brother, JR, was accepted, and you weren't on the list. And I said, Josh, I'm so sorry, but you're not on the list. And you had a little tantrum. Again, it was something like this. I made it. I'm staying, Mr. Alston. I'm in the choir. I made it. And, well, there it is.
Here I am.
Yeah. And, you know, we couldn't sing in the beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. You didn't know what we were doing, but
it was amazing how we learned together. And we all knew that we were all learning together. The patience that we had for you, because you were honest. Look, we're starting this. This is everybody's learning together. It was an amazing experience for me. It was life-changing for me. Coming from a home where my dad, you know, was addicted to drugs as well and not present, and when he was present, you know, having to go through that. You were a father to a lot of people, and I know a lot of times you don't like to look at it that way because you.
Oh, I don't.
But
crazy uncle.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the crazy
yeah,
uncle.
most definitely. And One thing that we're really big on, I'm very big on my show, is giving out the flowers to the people that really deserve them. It started with a statistic that we once read that said most men don't receive their first bouquet of flowers until their funeral. So one thing that me, Pierre, and a few of the men here at the radio station, we did on Father's Day, we went out to Memorial Park and we passed out roses to the men. So John, I want to give you your verbal flowers and say thank you so much for being the man that you are, the man that you continue to be. Not just for me personally, because it is personal. This is a very personal interview for me, but for the many, many children. The choir currently has 112 children right here from our community. That's 112 children that you're impacting. That's 112 different family members. That's 112 different children that now have a different outlook on music and life. I remember I tell people all the time that I was singing Motov, Beethoven, and Bach, but it was weird because you go home, you get off the choir van, and none of your friends know who these people are. But we did. And we actually sung music. And I was one of the privileged kids at that time to be able to sing in a college choir, which was a great experience of mine, one that I talk about all the time. So thank you so much. I told myself that I wasn't going to cry today because this is a very personal interview, so I'm not.
And don't, we got a cowboy up. Let's get through this.
Yes, but this is very personal to me. John is someone who seen me through some of my toughest times in my childhood. I remember you would tell me, Josh, I'll be coming to get you at 3. Literally at 11 o'clock, I was outside in the parking lot waiting.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I would literally be outside waiting all day because I knew that you were coming. And at that time, you were one of the men in my life that I knew that wasn't going to lie. That when you said that you were coming, I could bank on it. That any given time, that little white hatchback was going to pull into the Jeffrey Squares parking lot and pick me up. And we were going to go off to sing, play baseball, whatever we did, eat with chopsticks, eat at every type of restaurant imaginable, Thai, every type of food. I think we ate all around the world when it came there at such a young age. I remember going to New York sometimes twice a year. Our first time being in the city, walking around, was with you. And it started out, it was like 9 of us, 9 boys. Way before it was Chester Children's Chorus, it was Chester Boys Chorus.
I have a picture of you and Nate and Sierra and sitting on a park bench in Central Park in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah, that one I still have up.
I got to see it.
In my studio. It's nice.
So getting to some of the more real stuff, being as though you are such an advocate and a major part of the Chester community, one that doesn't get talked about often, which is sad, honestly, for us to have our own children's chorus. I think about all the big choirs that we hear our names, and then I think about us, and I'm like, why aren't we big like that? Why are we as big like that? Why isn't the community pumping Chester Children's Chorus? What are 3 main changes that you would like to see happen in the community? Yeah.
I need to back up. That's a big question.
Yes.
Right? We are intentionally a very narrow program. I don't mean that in a pejorative or hypercritical sense, but the mission is really threefold. And this will work into the community question. My wish is that every child singing in the choir has a profound musical experience. 1, all minorities in the United States, black, brown, yellow, we all have to master our own culture the culture of our families, of our block, of our neighborhood, of our city. And we need to master the culture of power, right? White academia, white business, the language, the dress code, the mannerisms, the style, all of that, and the culture. So we sing Mozart, you and I sang Mozart for two reasons. Because Mozart is awesome, right? He's absolutely, it's fabulous music. Some of the most expressive, funniest, witty, tragic music. He could do it like Shakespeare could do it. He could break your heart, he could make you laugh. So we sing Mozart because he's worth knowing. But we also sing Mozart because of the folks in power, right? Rich, white America claim Mozart as their own. So for you and for me to feel more comfortable in a situation where we are obviously a minority, we are intentionally preparing ourselves for those interactions by knowing Mozart, by knowing Bach, wow, by knowing great literature, by having tasted great food, by knowing how to eat with chopsticks, right? Yeah. By knowing to put your napkin on your lap as soon as you sit down to dinner. All of that is intentional. So there's a fancy term for that, which you and I have not talked about, but maybe you bumped into it in your studies. Non-oppositional biculturality, right? So, but the bicultural part, right? We get to be brothers when we're hanging out, right? We get to talk, we get to use our private language, we get to talk about the things we talk about, laugh the way that we want, curse the way that we want. But when we step into the professional arena, businessmen and professors and lawyers and doctors expect us to behave a different way. They expect us to behave in a way that they recognize. And stepping back for a moment, some folks might think, well, that's not fair, right? Why can't we behave the way that we behave and they behave the way that they behave and that everybody lives happily ever after? Because that's not reality. Because the people in charge get to decide what's right and what's wrong. So that's the other reason that we do Mozart, because we need to master the culture of power. But the thing about the Chester Children's Chorus, and I was not doing this when you and I were singing together, because I was learning this very, very slowly, is that when we sing that song, I Still Can't Breathe, which intentionally sounds like an R&B song, or if we cover James Brown or Aretha Franklin, which we have, really difficult to sing that stuff, or when we do Stevie Wonder, the 2 concerts ago, we sang Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the children loved it, and the audience loved it, and the parents and grandparents, they really loved it, right? Yeah. So when we sing Earth, Wind, and Fire, we say to the world, what we know and what we love, what we grew up listening to on our block, that's beautiful too, and we need to be appreciated and cheered for because of the things that we love, and that's what the Chester Children's Chorus does.
Absolutely.
Right? So I got to finish this. You really get this. So how many times in school did you hear that ain't a word, or that ain't is a bad word?
Well, it was a part of my allowance. Mm-hmm. So I stopped saying ain't when I moved in with you, because I knew that I would receive extra money at the end of the week.
I was a different man back then.
And I only had 5 chances to say ain't. I could say ain't 5 times. After 5, I lost that part of my allowance. So I stopped saying ain't very early.
But now you know
yes,
where it belongs and where it doesn't.
Absolutely.
And again, in some ways it's not fair. We should be allowed to use one of our beloved words any place we want. But reality says folks in charge get to determine what's right and what's wrong. So I say to you, you want to make $1 million, you want to be successful, you want to be the guy in the room that everybody admires, right? Yeah. You study harder than everybody else in the room, and you don't say ain't. You save ain't for later.
It's amazing because I run into a lot of people just working in the community and being so versatile. I pride myself on being able to walk in any room and have a conversation with anyone, from the people in our community to executives to politicians. I pride myself on being able to have those conversations. But hearing you talk and thinking about my childhood and coming up underneath your roof for a part of that, I realized that's a big part of that transition.
When
people ask me, man, you dress sharp, and I like how you can switch it up. But I remember those lessons. I remember you forcing me to read. I remember you, Josh, don't say ink, talk properly, set up straight. I remember us learning different languages in the choir just by counting, even if it was numbers, and singing in different languages and learning what those words mean. Eating at those different restaurants, tasting different foods, and learning about those cultures, because we didn't just go to those restaurants and eat. It was a lesson attached to that all the time.
Sure.
You always talked about, the culture and where the food came from, and always had little tidbits about different things. So again, just thank you so much, because it's a really huge part of who I am today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I just wish that I had been better at it. Boy, we were really making it up back in the day.
Yeah, we were. How was that, taking in a young man from Chester that was broken, that came from a broken home? I still remember the first day that my mom met us out Swarthmore at the lawyer's office, and you became my legal guardian. How was that for you?
I was too naive to know how difficult, to understand how much responsibility that was. So now I have a 4-year-old. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand how much time and good thinking that requires, and how much patience that requires. I wish we had a do-over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm grateful and blessed for the time that we did share, the time that we still share. Just recently, just being at the house, eating dinner with the family, that was so rejuvenating, just to know that we're still here.
Yeah, we are.
We are still here.
I do have to teach you how to drink better beer, though. That was terrible. that was embarrassing.
Yeah. We are still
My friend
here.
drinks Miller.
Miller High Life, champagne and beer since 1903, John.
Gosh.
Since 1903. But, just moving along, what are some of the things, because I'm not going to cry, John.
You don't need to.
So, what is the biggest thing in life that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
Surely it was the embarrassment and shame of having an alcoholic father. He would show up drunk, hadn't seen him in a week, clearly been in a bar fight, face just bruised, talking smack about how we whooped 3 dudes, this, that, and the other, but, comes home, gets his ass kicked, and what am I supposed to do with that as a 6, 7, 8-year-old looking at your father like that? That was it's definitely my great sorrow. So I can't say that you never overcome it, right?
No.
You carry around your junk with your dad. I carry around my junk with mine.
We learn to deal with it.
That's right. We work in spite of it, and sometimes it makes us work
harder than anybody else around us.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we also it better enables us to appreciate other people's sorrows.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, it's one of the reasons why I'm good at what I do. It's because I get it. It's nothing really I can't talk about, especially when it comes to our community.
Yeah, you've been through it.
Yep. You talk about drug addiction, father, gotcha. You talk about abusive father, gotcha. You talk about losing a brother to gun violence, check. Losing a brother to the prison system, check. Being raised in a single mother household, check. Losing a son to suicide, check. It goes on, and it's one of the reasons why we are good at what we do.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote? What's the saying that you say to yourself to keep you going, to keep you moving? I shared with you before the show my favorite quote from Nelson Mandela. There's no passion to be found in playing small and settling for a life less than the one you're capable of having.
I don't have one of those.
No.
The one this year is, I shared this with you earlier, but I just picked this up 2 days ago. I might put it on my wall for the year, is dream hard, work harder.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I work out, I chant to myself, why do we work out? To be strong. Why do we want to be strong? So we can do good work. And why do we do good work? Because I love the children. So it's something like that.
And I thought it was going to be because you want to be strong like me.
I'll never be that strong.
So going into the chorus stuff, in the beginning we played a song called I Can't Breathe.
Yeah.
And from the video, we could tell, what inspired that song. But you wrote that song, directed that song, put the music to that song. What inspired that? How was it teaching it to the kids, and how did they receive it? Because you could hear the passion in their voice and how much all of that stuff that was happening around them was affecting them. But it came out in the music and the beauty of its sound.
When Eric Gardner was killed by those 6 cops, a few days later, one of the boys in the choir, Russ, and I haven't seen Russ in six or 7 years, but Russ came to the choir and he said, "John, have you seen the video?" I said, "No, I can't look at it. I don't want to look at it." He said, "Man, you really have to look at it." So he and the other bassists queued it up on their cell phone, and we at this time we were rehearsing at the Friends Meeting House over on 24th Street.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Have you?
Yeah, you took me there one time before.
Yeah, so 24th, like around Maddie Block and all that. So
listen to you saying Maddie Block.
it's just because they say it, I say it, man. That's where it is. I drive. I either drive or ride my bike, down that street every day. So Russ says, "You gotta watch this video." So I watched it with him, and I hadn't seen it. I didn't want to see it. I had read about it, and all we did was talk about race and racism and injustice. We spent that whole rehearsal just sitting in those church pews talking. And I remember asking Glenn and Aaliyah. Now they have 2 kids, but Glenn would have been like a 9th or 10th grader, and I said, "Glenn, why do you think we suffer? Like, why do you think children suffer?" And it was an open-ended question. And he said, and this was a heartbreaking answer, he said, because we're guilty. And I said, "Glenn, what are we guilty of? What are you guilty of? Because we're imperfect, right? So God made us all imperfect, so she surely doesn't, God doesn't expect us to be perfect. That's not a reasonable expectation from creatures like us. We don't have perfection in us, so it doesn't seem fair to be blamed for original sin or guilt, or to constantly ask for forgiveness. You didn't do anything that would have caused Eric Gardner to be murdered. You didn't do anything to cause at that time there were so many more murders annually in Chester than there are now. The mayor's office, the community's done a really, really fine job in addressing gun violence. It's not where it needs to be because one is too many, but that year there were 22 murders. And we had 4 siblings in the concert choir, 4 in a group of 35 that were murdered, killed by guns. And man, I just told Glenn, this is not our fault. America did this to us. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
And continues to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, despite real opportunities.
More blatantly today than ever before. And the reason why it's more blatant is because we have more technology now. We have knowledge at the tip of our
So
fingers.
you see it. But look, I don't want to go back to
Yeah.
before 1965. I do not want to go back to.
We will not.
No, because there was just nothing as bad
Yeah.
as the 400 years of slavery. So,
No.
but what we're going through now is ugly. This is ugly.
What are some of the challenges you see in regards to the family unit in Chester?
No more than any other family unit. Families that have enough money are likely doing okay, and families that are struggling because a system remains not only unsympathetic but hostile to us. So a lot of politicians make this mistake, and this is something Nixon said it, Reagan said it, all of these Republicans said it, even Barack Obama said it. He gave a speech about how black men need to show up for their children. It is a myth that black men do not show up for their children.
Absolutely.
And so it turns out that families with two household families, mother living in one house and father living in one house, black fathers spend more time visiting their children than white fathers do. So it's
Wow.
it's not absenteeism that is making it difficult for families to thrive and children to thrive. It's living in an underserved community with limited opportunities and being confronted and beat down by a society that says you are not as good as we are and you will always be second-class citizens.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry about that heavy answer, but
No,
we are not going to blame this on teen
No.
dads. That is junk.
On WWJD I'm constantly talking about mental health. I'm constantly talking about ways we could better our community, how we could build on all the good that we do have to keep it going, to keep it growing. So those answers are the answers that we need to hear.
Well, they're big answers. There aren't practical solutions there. We
Absolutely.
need billions of dollars to get to that.
So, and I know you've been in our school district for years.
A long time, yeah.
What are some of the changes that you would like to see happen in Chester Upland School District?
Got to answer this without blaming it on the Chester Upland School District.
Okay.
So, how come there are 180 days in a school year?
Don't know.
I don't know either. And you know who else doesn't know? Nobody knows the answer to that question anymore.
Wow.
I don't think there's anybody that can say, you know what? When you send children to school for 180 days, that will be the best academic experience they can have in a year. If you send them to school for 190 days, that will be too much. And if you send them to school for 175 days, that won't be enough. So this is a number. This rhythm that we inherited goes way back to the founding of our country, when these Southern boys, and I mean Jefferson and Madison, they were smart. They were also slave owners and racists. When they knew that in the summer seasons that they would need help in the fields,
Wow.
and that farmers would need to be planting during that season. So school starts when the harvesting season is over, and school ends when the harvesting season begins. That's one way of looking at it. Now, why haven't we done any better than that? I can't say, because America is not serious about education. That's why.
I have never heard it broke down like that. That it just blew my mind, actually. That's crazy.
We just inherited this system, and we're not courageous enough to step back and say, if you were to create an educational system for children in Swarthmore, how many days would they need to get really good? And then if you were to create an educational system in Chester, how many days would those beautiful little boys and girls need for them to fulfill their potential, right?
I tell people all the time, my first time realizing the major disconnect in society in regards to the minorities and me being a minority was when I left Strathaven and went back to the Chester Upland School District. And I remember it was in the middle of the 8th grade year, and I remember they were doing math that me and Mr. Thorpe was doing in 6th grade. And I was like, wow, what is this? But it was the first time that I realized, like, I just lived 5 minutes up the road and the school system drastically changed. Yeah. What we were learning, how we were learning it. The whole system was just wild to me. So that was the first time that I actually got to see that and feel that as a child. So just get back into it. What are some of the other, what does that change look like? How do we get there? What are some of the steps that we can start to take to see change?
Well, with the school district, consider the following, that about 1/3 of Americans go to college, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe a few more would go if it weren't as expensive. But almost all American high schoolers are saddled with college prep, with a college prep curriculum. That's why you had to suffer through Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. The only reason to take that math is to get you ready for college math. So what if we embrace the fact that right now most Americans are not going to go to college, and most Americans can't get through a pre-college high school curriculum, but that's what we cram down our children's throats, right? What if we did better at teaching citizenship and spent our time reading literature that would teach us to be better community members? And what if we did the kind of math that would prepare high school graduates to be better consumers, so that they would look at the ingredients list and the calorie counts of any item and say, you know what, this, whatever I'm looking at, this Twinkie has blah, 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 blah. And then decide whether he or she is going to eat it after having thought about it and having the intellectual chops to make a decision. So I need a little junk food today. I don't feel so good, right? So I'm going to eat this Twinkie and kind of deal with my sorrow later. Or, you know what, I'm not going to eat this right now. I'm going to eat something healthier. Or I'm going to save 5% of everything that I make, so that when I'm older and I want to retire, that I've saved enough. Now, I'm not an expert in what I'm trying to describe right now, but you should not have had to suffer through Algebra 2 and geometry unless you were college bound. There's so many things you could have learned in middle and high school that would have better prepared you for this moment right here. Yeah. It would have made you a better citizen, a better emerging politician, right, and a better caregiver. You did not have to suffer through meaningless classes. Yeah. And it's just not working. Right?
And it makes sense. Yeah. It makes total sense. Right.
So that's independent of whether we're doing that in Chester or any other school district. So the trick with Chester is finding the things that will allow its children to grow up into the residents that will repair and improve the community, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I don't have the answers to that, right? Except the music part.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of music, going back to Chester Children's Chorus, what are some of the things that you have up and coming, just preparing for the school year? What does that look like for you? How do you prepare? Because do you still go into the schools to do auditions?
We auditioned last spring, starting last March. We couldn't get into all of the schools because of the continued pandemic, but we added 38 new children, wow, which we'd never done before. We had several open houses, and we have a terrific new marketing person now, and she just got out there and hustled on our behalf, and lots of wonderful children and families found us. And in July, and you should have come, we gave, it could have been our best concert ever.
Wow.
The classical music was tight, the 50 set was just banging, and we covered, I keep blanking on this tune, covered Ray Charles's Let the Good Times Roll.
Yeah.
But we did Ray's version, and the children, they sounded wonderful. They dug in. They just really dug into that piece, and the audience just lost its mind. Boy, they were just yelling and screaming, and it was such a good night. So the next time we sing in public will be in the middle of December. We'll be at Swarthmore College.
Nice.
On, I think it's the 12th and the 14th. I'm not sure.
I know when I was at dinner, the schedule isn't completely done yet, but if someone wanted to follow you guys, I know you're on Facebook. Are you on any other social media platforms? You're
asking the wrong guy. I'm supposed to know this stuff, but you'll have to post this in a subsequent show. I know we have a Twitter account and we do Facebook, and you can always find latest posts on our website. What else are we supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I don't know. So do you guys still play baseball in the summer?
No.
So no baseball.
Lots of African dance. Basketball, because I don't do it.
What about the water balloon fight? Do we still do that?
We didn't do it this year, but we did it the year before. And every few birthdays, they chased me down with water balloons and water guns.
They were some of the best times.
Yep, fabulous.
Birthdays. I don't remember none of us who had a birthday while we were in the choir. I think we enjoyed our birthdays more in the choir than we did at home, because it was always a water balloon fight, cake. You made it special for us.
Yeah, you made it special for me. So I don't think, I wonder if the audience actually understands what we're talking about when I was living in Swarthmore and you were with me. So do you think we should review that story? Because
I think absolutely, if you would like to tell it.
Well, we can tell it together. So this was just before Josh's 6th grade, and I had this big old house in Swarthmore. And
Juliana Ave.
Right now, see, you can't do any of this stuff anymore. But like, how many weekends were you and Nate and Max, and we were just all sleeping over? Just staying up all night.
Man, so many. Like, we would just literally pile up in the living room for days. We really didn't want to leave. Like, our parents would have to call us, and like, it's time to come home, because
and you bring over your little Game Boy things.
And we didn't have to do nothing. We would be in the house. I mean, of course we would go out and but it would just be us. We was cool. We had the weight bench downstairs. Everybody thought they were stronger than me. They weren't. And I remember this. I remember we played this game one time where it was a trick. One of the littler kids were over the house, and he showed us the trick where you put your hand up and the other person has to go like this, squeeze their jaw, and say as many times as the number that the other person thought they said. So it was a trick. It was a 2-person trick, and the only person that was getting tricked was the other people, because the other 2 people were working together. And I
have no memory of this, Josh.
Yeah, so the person was like, well, give me a number from 1 to 10. Say a number from 1 to 10, and tell him a number from 1 to 10, and I'm going to guess the number. Okay. So I would tell the person, 10, right? And then that person would go.
Josh, would you please stop?
Yes.
So here's what really happened. The summer before your 6th grade, I figured I've got this big house. If I become your legal guardian, you can go to school at Strathaven Middle School. So we talked to your mom. She was cool with it. And then a friend of mine that I had met in a church choir. She was a lawyer. She was a family lawyer. She agreed to do the paperwork, and she did it really cheaply. I mean, it was hard. It was practically free, and we signed the papers, and you came, and we fussed a lot because he was not doing his homework regularly.
Yeah.
But this was, and you stayed for one semester because my crazy nephew came to live with me
Yeah.
too, right? And that was. He's doing okay. He spent some time in jail too, but he's got a job. He's Mike.
Yep.
Mike has got a career, and he's as crazy and as creative as ever. But he was impossible to live with. So
You were the first. Living with you was the first time. It's funny. I used to sell CDs. It was one of my hustles because back then kids in Chester didn't have apples, and we literally had a room with a desk. It was a completely different living experience.
man, that
It
was your
showed
only.
me a completely different side of life.
You passed everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got all B's and C's in every class. That
Every
was your
class.
first time passing everything. That's what's up.
yep. I remember Mr. Thorpe. He was the math teacher, but he was also in the Air Force. Which, when I think back, I think he was a Navy SEAL because he was just so smooth and calm and cool.
Yeah. You guys weren't gonna bother him in any way.
Yeah,
right?
not at all. But he was, but you didn't want to neither. Like the way he handled everybody was just,
Yeah.
it's like you could tell that he had been through some things.
Yeah.
Again, John, just thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you for being a part of this, my show.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's just wonderful to see you looking almost as good as I do, man.
I try.
Good
I
luck
try.
with that.
I try.
Good luck with that.
Leaving here tonight, what are some of the things that you want people to not just remember about Chester, but remember about the Chester Children's Chorus? What are some of the things that you want people, that you wanted to stick with the audience that's going to watch this video, probably if not tonight, tomorrow, next week? What are some of the things that you want them to know about Chester Children's Chorus?
All right. First, that all children, black, white, other, when presented with the right combination of love and high expectations, will grow, will flourish, will get better. Right? Not everybody is given the same abilities and gifts, but we are all capable of getting better. And that Chester children, like all children, are capable of extraordinary things, of singing beautifully. You're funny, you're witty, you are just exquisite pains in the asses sometimes. But the humanity is so deep, and Chester children, like all children, you're just not you anymore. You're a grown man, but they're just so important. Children are so important. I mean, they are just our sacred. They are our sacred trust. It is our responsibility to get up there and do what we can. So the only reason I do music is because it's the only thing I'm good at. We have a great math program, by the way, but I don't run it. So we are a music and math program. And to come back to the very, very beginning, was it persistence? Is that the word?
No, relentless.
Relentless.
Yes.
We are relentless at pursuing excellence in math and in music. If we go any wider than that, we won't do a good job. Right now we know how to do math and music. We'll figure out the other things, but we will pursue excellence relentlessly because we want all of our children to have the best opportunity to fulfill their potential. And that's why we were put on this earth. That's why we were given our blessings and our sorrows, so that we can turn that into into something useful. I don't know what else to tell you, but
That was perfect.
that's kind of it.
So 112 children from our community, from Chester, are in the Chester Children's Chorus. Please make sure you go on Facebook and you follow them. I'm so happy that we had John Alston come through WWJD.
Great to be here.
Thank you all for tuning in. Please tune in tomorrow. I have 2 big interviews again tomorrow as well. WWJD will be interviewing the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club, and as well as Dave Galuch, who is running for U.S. Congress. 2 interviews that I'm looking forward to. The first one is at 11. The next one will be at 1. So make sure you tune in for those. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. You have been great to me. I love my audience. I love the people who inbox me, who constantly motivate me. Big shout out to cmpradio.net and John Pierre for his continuous, effortless work in the community. I know that he is tired. I've been here most of the day with him. We started our day in Wilmington, Delaware this morning at 9 o'clock. We've been rocking and rolling all day. So Pierre, thank you so much, bro, for all the work that you do. John, thank you. We look forward to seeing you at the winter concert. I love y'all. Till next time, tune in.
Giving them hell. You feeling with pride. And you sit in the jail. I give them a dream, I said, and you never fail. Just don't ever lie.